Staff has prepared a draft of the 2015 budget. It is a balanced budget. It does not have any increase in taxes. It is roughly about 20 pages in length. It provides for, there's no new taxes. There's no increase in any taxes. And in terms of expenses, it does provide for a number of things, including a new roof on the barn that is next door to here, a new police vehicle, which looks like it's going to be a pickup truck, new cameras for the police vehicles, since those cameras are technologically challenged and out of date, a new mower for the park, and in terms of new equipment, a truck for plowing the Eagle Farm subdivision, which we've taken partial dedication of the roads in that subdivision.
Not just for the Eagle Farm subdivision.
But that is one of the reasons for it. But also for a backhoe to be bought over time to replace the aged and aging backhoe that, quite frankly, has been relegated to working in the salt shed. There's money in the budget for sidewalks and trails. It makes a provision for $17,000 toward pension plans and $10,000 towards the community garden. So the recommendation, unless the board thinks otherwise, is that the board authorize that this be put on the township website so that it can be reviewed by the public.
Okay, well, the next time we'll be able to discuss this in public with input from the public. You know what I think.
That would be at the next meeting,
Okay.
and really for the next two meetings.
Okay.
In terms of the timetable, there is a requirement under the law that the budget be available for inspection for 20 days before you approve it. Typically, the approval of the budget is done at your last meeting in December, which I believe is December 22nd. So we're looking at the last meeting in November as the meeting where you would authorize the public inspection of the budget.
Distinguish between public inspection and putting it on the website, Jim?
Yeah, putting it on the website simply allows people to take a look at it and ask questions, make comments, come to the next several meetings and voice their concerns to the board of supervisors. When you reach a final draft, state law requires that it be available for 20 days for public inspection. And we handle that two ways. One is we put that on the website, but that doesn't meet the state requirements because the state requirements predate websites. So what we do is we have a copy that's available for someone to come in off the street and physically inspect here at the township.
In final form.
In final form, yes. And the requirement pretty much is that between when you authorize it for public inspection and when you adopt it, there's really very little that you can change.
Thank you.
And do I hear a motion to put the draft 2015 budget on the website?
So moved.
Second. Comments? Maria?
Do I recall correctly, at the last meeting, we discussed having a budget workshop where we would actually be able to get more involved into some of the details of the budget and not tie up one of these meetings?
I thought that was a
Five-year
think
plan.
plans
That's what I heard, but
for several different things, budget being one of them, projections for the next 5 years.
yeah,
And where do we stand on that?
I think we gotta get this budget well on its way before we actually do that. It makes sense to me.
And I'm in the process of developing some of the information I think we need to have before we go into the 5-year budget process.
So maybe if we're lucky in December to start it. The reality is that it's more important to get this done at this point, this late in the year, than a 5-year plan is very important, but
Well, these are things that are going to be spent this year, and wouldn't it be nice to be able to not hold up one of these meetings to try to go through and really understand some of those? I mean, there's some pretty big expenses we just, Jim just went through. No tax increase or not, it's still a lot of money that, in the past few years, you ask questions at these meetings, we really don't get solid answers or information, detailed information, where if we had a workshop, we'd be able to, I would hope, get some better information. Or the follow-up question would be, if you came into the office to inspect it, are you only going to inspect exactly what's on the website? Or do you get to see some of the details behind the budget?
I think she's asking, I'll put words in your mouth. You're looking for a breakdown of what's in each item?
Well,
And if that would-
on the not each item, but on some of these major things. I mean, there was a tractor, a roof. there was-
What's going to be available if anybody wants to come in and look at the budget? What type of information?
Well, I mean, what's available is the proposed budget. I mean, that's
So
what's.
there's not going to be any detail available to them?
No. No.
I'm going to assume that you don't like that answer.
You will.
You just ruined my night, Jim.
So we're gonna have a special budget meeting? David, John, yes, no?
I don't think we decided to do that, did we?
I'm asking, do we wanna have one? Yes or no?
We have 2 meetings to consider this. Is your thought for a special meeting that you don't want to tie up 2 meetings in the budget? You don't want to tie us down for 2 meetings?
I'm just forwarding Maria's idea to the board to consider, that's all.
I think John answered that and said that the workshop would be for the 5-year plan, not for the budget. Do I understand you right, John?
No, that's part of it. I agree with that, but I think other people have had issues, or not issues, that's the wrong word, would like more information on what goes into it. And I hadn't really thought of it. Believe it or not, we didn't talk about this. I don't know why we didn't talk about it. Thank you for not talking about it. Do you think if we had one meeting just for this and in a week and answered as many questions as we could, but the reality is, Jim's put a lot of effort into it, and he's gonna have, all this stuff, and he's not gonna be able to do it down to the penny. He'll give you the best answers we can, but I don't know whether the others will go along with wasting, when it's not a waste, spending a whole night doing that. I would, but that's because,
I mean, when I review budgets in the past, I would ask the person that created it, tell me what your assumptions are that came to this number. So if I am buying a tractor, I'd want to know, well, what's the situation here? Why do we need the tractor? How much is it? What kind is, the details went into finding, you have to have the detail to put the number down. The number doesn't, you don't pull it out of the air. So you have the detail, it's just a matter of being transparent and understand, letting people that care know where that information came from.
Let me ask Jim, in preparing this draft budget, how many hours did it take you, roughly? Just give me a top of that.
I mean, that's really difficult to answer because there are things we do all year that relate to the preparation of the budget.
Well,
in terms of
where I'm going with that is, if it took you 20 hours or whatever it took you, can we spend 20 hours going over this with the public? I just don't see that we can do that. If we're going to look on every assumption that you make about every tractor and that sort of thing, we can't do it, I don't think.
Well, in terms of how much time I personally spent on this, it's in the neighborhood of hundreds of hours. And, you know, I spent a lot of time talking to department heads about the budget and about their area. And, I mean, in the past, I've answered lots of very specific questions about what's in various items within the budget. I can certainly do that. But, I mean, for example, on revenue estimates, I mean, they're based upon work I've done for the past 10 years in looking at, analyzing, recording revenue.
Your projections on revenue, just to pick one thing, I thought were succinct, right to the point, and very informative, and there were about 10 different lines.
But there is, for the backup for that is immense.
Well,
I
no
don't
one's
think
looking
we need-
to look at the backup, it's a review. It's a question and answer, where does this come from?
Well,
You know, we're
sometimes where something comes from, there are not simple answers.
Let me ask another question, if you don't mind. In the past, we've had, I believe the columns on the budget would have like last year's budget, this year's budget, and then year to date, but it wouldn't have a projected number for the current year. Does the budget format this year allow for a projected year-end number?
What's presented to the board tonight does not. I've been asked by John to work that up. I have been working on that. That is something which, quite frankly, takes a lot of time and effort, and I'm only partway through it.
So what do we want to do, John, David?
I'd like to have a period laid out specific for the budget. If that's an hour of time or something that we could get some, you know, if anybody has any questions, to get the best answer. It may not be detailed all the way down. I don't think you can do that, have all those things. So you gotta be prepared, if we do this, that give out as much information, and maybe there's a follow-up in writing after that if you need more detail or whatever.
Well, you may just put your finger on the answer here, John. Because here's the way I look at this. And I see a budget meeting open to the public, and I see it running for 20 hours. Because people are going to ask questions, people are going to have follow-up questions, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Just that we don't have that 20 hours to do. So what I think you're saying, John, is if we're going to do this, let's put a time limit on it. Do I understand you correctly?
I think, you know, 30 hours should cover it.
The two of you enjoy that period, no problem. Yeah.
Well, if we get a copy of the budget ahead of time, then maybe we can come up with our question ahead of time and give it to you ahead of time, then have the meeting. And that should shorten it up.
I think people just want to have some input to the budget. I think people want to be able to have a little bit of input, and I don't think it takes 20 hours to review a budget. Remember that I used to prepare and carry out municipal budgets, so I do have an idea. It's not going to take 20 hours to review it. I think you can go down through it department by department and tell us how close it was to last year, all on paper. You don't have to physically say it. Okay, we can compare it and have very intellectual questions, very important questions to ask about that, and then have the opportunity to put some input into it. For instance, and this isn't going to make me popular, but I personally don't think a municipality should be making donations to any nonprofit. Personally don't think that, but I'd like the opportunity to say that. Because by the time the budget gets to us and we have a budget meeting, it's done, it's set, this is what we've decided to do, we're going to give $1,000 here and $1,500 there. And I personally, as a taxpayer, would rather be asked, do you want to donate to this particular nonprofit? Guess what? I'll get my checkbook out and I'll write that check, and I don't care for my municipality to write that check. thank you very much, and if I don't like that particular nonprofit, I'm not gonna write that check. It kind of makes the nonprofit step up a bit, but, that's just, my little soapbox for this evening.
It might
But we
take
want a
40
place to have input. What is that?
I was joking, I said it might take 40 hours.
It might. It won't. We want a place to have input. I think that's.
No, I agree with you. I think
that's what we need to have.
But I think, I don't know what to expect. I'm at a loss. I would love to have them, but I agree with David. I don't think it should be a week-long meeting.
It doesn't have to be in the evening. I don't know when you as the board can sit down and consider the budget, just at these public meetings. I mean, that's when you guys are exchanging ideas about what's in it and when, and whether this is what, or is it all just on Jim to decide what goes in the budget? I mean, I don't think that's what it is.
Sarah's
How about
next.
if we put it on the,
Sarah's next. Mike, sorry.
Back to saving taxpayer money, I do not think you ought to have a special meeting. You'd have to pay to advertise it. All of us have these meetings on the calendar, and in the past, you have managed to receive and answer our budget questions in your regularly scheduled meetings, and I think it's important to maintain that. I think you do a disservice to a part of the population if you set up something special at a different time of day than what we've all been conditioned to. And you might decide to do something like putting the rest of your business first on the agenda so that anybody who's got an issue before the board can be out of the way before the budget comes up. And then you can set the lights go off at 11 o'clock or midnight or whatever you want, but I think...
9:30?
Yeah, 9:30 would be fine. But, I just don't think you should have the expense of another meeting of staff, legal, advertising, anything.
I think Mike's idea of sending email and the questions in would make the meeting go a lot faster.
and have it on a regularly scheduled meeting, like she said, after the normal business. I think that's a smart way to do it.
Yeah, but if there's any questions, at least those questions would be, the answer would be in the can.
And it'd be
Then
finished, yeah.
we go, cut down a lot of time, so.
I think, though, if we're gonna do this, and I think it's probably, we're moving toward doing it, it's probably a good thing to do. There's gotta be a time limit. I mean, it's gotta be, and maybe two meetings, an hour for one meeting, an hour.
Well, I think there is a time limit at 9:30, correct?
That's what Ken said.
Yeah.
I could live with that.
Heck, I said 9 o'clock if I knew that's all.
Is that AM or PM?
Just asking. Mike, you had a question, or is that?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay, Brian's next, then Harriet.
I'm going to go back to my first question, which is diversion from where we are right now. Jim mentioned.
Could we stick with the specific subject? We have people who have questions on.
This
what
is
we're doing
budget
right now.
related. But Jim said we have a balanced budget. Is it possible for a board to pass an unbalanced budget?
It is, but it's against the law.
Okay, that's what I thought, okay. Where we're going right now is, if you hold a workshop, does that need to be formally advertised? Because a workshop, you're not voting on anything.
No, it doesn't, yeah. The workshop has to be advertised too, because it's a meeting in the public.
Okay, then never mind.
Okay. Harriet?
I have a probably somewhat unpopular point of view here too.
Jump in.
I'm very impressed that when I'm writing up my township taxes, my computer knows right to fill in, because it's been filling in the same number for years and years. And I'm wondering if we are cutting services that, because there's been inflation, not bad inflation, but a bit, and you'd expect that the taxes would be keeping up with that, are we paying our staff enough? I mean, people are making their living doing this. And if our taxes are staying the same, I'm not sure how we're providing services.
Well, the tax rate stays the same, but the revenue from the taxes grows because there's a broader tax base
More
every year.
people coming in.
More income.
Okay.
And more income,
All right,
and the
then
income goes up
I
every
won't
year.
ask for a
Plus,
tax increase.
plus more houses.
I just thought,
Thank
but I just wanted to say, you guys are doing a great job.
But I think and that's one of the things that relates to the 5-year plan, is that at some point in time, development will perhaps not cease, but will be substantially less than it is now. And one of the things that has driven tax collections is you have more people, more income, and more houses, and more transfers. And once the growth stops, it's a legitimate question. But I think it's more of a question for the 5-year plan and not for next year.
So what are we gonna do? Talk about it at the end of the next meeting from 8:30 to 9:30.
That works for me, it's a start.
We're gonna limit it to an hour whenever we get the first part of the agenda done.
Well, I thought, why don't we just limit it to 9:30, no matter when we get it done? Okay.
Okay, 9:30.
Yep.
What if we don't start till 8:45?
Hey, Sarah.
Minimum of an hour.
I'm just
Never
being the
s-
Brian Curry of the front table here. Asking any questions about any important subjects. So we're gonna have a budget meeting at the end of the next meeting. Okay, if you do have questions that you could see your way clear to email in or call in or mail in, that probably would speed things up.
I just can't reiterate how important it is to have the projected year-end numbers to really know where you stand. Otherwise, you have no clue. If you're just looking at August, January through August numbers as an actual, because you're assuming you're going to be on budget, but you could be way off in either direction, and you're creating your new budget in some, certain areas. You look at where you are today, how you did this year.
It'll be through October though, by the time we have
Well,
the
it
meeting.
won't
No,
be
but
till
the budget's
through
working
October.
on it.
It'll be in August.
Couldn't be through October.
But the actual will be till October.
Will it be actual through October? Never has been.
It's on a computer, right? Not payable, everything on the computer?
This is all hand entered.
That's okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna have that meeting at the end of the next meeting, included in the next regular supervisor meeting. Okay. Number 18, and the final item is the,
Excuse me, could you just vote on that?
I'm gonna vote on it's gonna be
You
the regular
voted,
meeting.
you made a motion to put it on the website, and then you had discussion.
Oh, this whole discussion was about that?
Yes,
Okay.
Was that motion seconded?
yes, it was seconded.
David,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good job, Kim. Keep them straight.
So, the final item is the healthcare. series.
and in order to deal with healthcare issues, one of the things we've done